about that. All right. On the undercard, you had David Benavidez making his debut as a full-fledged 175-pounder, taking on Alexander Vosk. Didn't look like the destroyer we've seen in his campaign at 168, but still won a pretty wide decision over Vosk, who was making a comeback after losing his title, I should say, to Artur Beterbiev several years ago. What did you think of Benavidez's performance?
Look, I thought that it reminded me in points of how Canelo Alvarez looked against Dimitri Bivol. You know, like the power was not the same as he landed those big blows on Vosk. Vosk really didn't flinch or back up or wobble or anything like that as the 168 pounders who would take those same shots from Benavidez have in the past. So that was clearly in play. And then Benavidez after the fight, I think we all know, we've never heard excuses from David Benavidez, so he deserves the benefit of the doubt. He says, look, I had a ligament issue in my right arm. And he showed the left hand was all swollen up. You know, I've got this injury with the left hand. And then he suffered a minor cut also in the last couple of weeks of training, and that cut reopened during the fight.
Yeah, so he put a picture of that on social media too. Like he showed the stitches that were in above that left eye.
So he wasn't himself, but I also think that he was dealing with that jump up in weight to 175, and it was, you know, you had an opponent in Vosk who showed up amazingly fit. I mean, he was in better shape than Benavidez as these guys took their shirts off for the weigh-in, and he was. You can make the case too. I mean, he kind of approached this fight as like a last stand, that he wanted to reemerge in the division and get an opportunity to maybe fight either Beterbiev again or Bivol. So David Benavidez gets the victory, like you said, by a pretty wide decision, and he has both of these options before him. It's going to be very interesting to see which one he really chooses and how the WBC treats this issue.
That's a side note, and I talked to Benavidez about this. I'm sure you did too. Like the WBC has treated David Benavidez like shit. They have treated him terribly. Like David Benavidez, what was it? Almost 2 years. He was the interim champion, the mandatory for Canelo Alvarez, and not once did they order it. They just kowtow to whatever Canelo Alvarez wants and do not act with any kind of integrity when it comes to David Benavidez. I mean, look, the IBF's out there ordering William Skull. Like, you know, the IBF's ordering William Skull. The WBC won't order the fight that everybody wants to see. Like, maybe Canelo still doesn't take it, but at least it's ordered, and you know, they behave in a, you know, appropriate manner. They haven't done that with David Benavidez. And, you know, for the record, they're not going to do that at 175 either. They're going to stay out of the way of this unification fight between Beterbiev and Bivol. And I don't think they're going to interject on that part as well. Look, I heard Benavidez say, I'm willing to do both. I think he's done at 168. Like, he's a big guy, Lance. Like, he needs to fill out and make 175. And maybe he's not as physically big and dominant at 175 as he is at 168, but he's still strong. He's still clean the clock of a former title holder who, you know, is still, I don't know where you put Vosk, top 15-ish, top 20. Like, he's up there in the light heavyweight division. So I think he should stay at 175. And if I was giving David Benavidez any advice, I would tell him to take a nice little vacation and then get back in the gym, because there's an October date coming up for Dimitri Bivol against Artur Beterbiev. And Artur Beterbiev's body is like a game of operation, right? Like every body part, there's a threat it could give on him. And we know that Turkey Al-Sheikh, Saudi Arabia, they're not screwing around. Like if somebody can't fight, it's next man up. So if I'm Benavidez, I take the rest of the month off, take my wife, take my kid to some nice exotic location, enjoy yourself, and then early July, maybe mid-July, get back in the gym and prepare like you're going to fight in October. Be ready for that call in like early September that Artur Beterbiev can't go, because a Bivol Benavidez fight, we heard Turkey Al-Sheikh mention just last month, he wants to see Bivol fight Benavidez. So if Beterbiev can't go, Benavidez stepping in, I think, is a realistic option.
Oh, that's a great idea, Chris. No doubt about it. I think that I actually wasn't even thinking like that. I was thinking that maybe for Benavidez, because he does have some ailments that he does need to deal with. And yes, you can heal while you're taking that vacation with the family. But maybe it's going to be David Morrell too, because he fights August 3rd in the LA card. Yeah. That would be a good opportunity for him if he's going to take that 175 path. Because look, Canelo is going to do what he wants to do, and at this point, unless he's getting that 150 to 200 million dollar purse money, he clearly is not going to take that fight against David Benavidez. And it is, you're right, it is a damn shame how the WBC has treated David Benavidez.
It's reprehensible. The WBA's out there ordering. I mean, they're not any better, but they're out there ordering, Edgar Berlanga fight against against Canelo Alvarez. Like,
what's the worst thing that's going to happen if you enforce this mandatory? What's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Canelo won't take it, basically. But
okay,
they're worried. They're worried about annoying Canelo. Like, that's not how a sanctioning body should behave. It's just not.
It's
the
not.
Morrell stuff. I don't know if I'm Benavidez if I'm running towards Morrell. Like, I don't know if Morrell's any good. He's 10-0 with 9 knockouts, but he's only got those 10 fights. Like, I want to see David Morrell active. I want to see him beating guys like Vosk. I want to see him beating guys that are names at 175. I think he's going to steamroll Hot Rod. Who's he fighting?
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about. So I think he's going to steamroll his guy on August 3rd, but I need to see him more active. I need to see Morrell brings nothing to the table at the moment. So if I'm Benavidez, I'm looking for another name at 175. It's too bad Sergey Kovalev got his clock cleaned in his last time out. That would have been a good name at light heavyweight if Kovalev could go back down to that weight. But I want to see him in the mix with somebody recognizable, staying busy until that opportunity comes. Because it feels like, Lance, worst case scenario, we would get Benavidez in 2025 against the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol. It does sound like Saudi Arabia is very interested in putting on that fight. Look, there's a lot of ifs here. But if that fight happens, and if Benavidez wins, all of a sudden, he's the undisputed champion at 175, and then that Canelo fight gets very easy to make. Then I think Canelo Alvarez does take the Benavidez fight in order to make a pile of money and lavish that legacy. Add another page onto that resume. That's when I think that fight would make sense. So I hope. I don't see any reason to go back to 168. Like, what's there? He's cleaned it out basically, except for the top guy that won't fight him.
It's Canelo or bust at 168, and then again, I just think that whatever the extent of these injuries are, come back rested and healed from that, and then take the fight by the end of the year. And like you said, it does lay out perfectly as you laid it out. I would love to see the 175 undisputed against the 168. Whether he's undisputed or not, based on what the IBF's going to do, he's undisputed. So that would be an epic match.